Hello, Patriots, and welcome back to the channel. Well, we have big breaking news that is coming out, probably the biggest news since this whole virus pandemic started, and that is how Governor Andy Beshear has been busted.
Busted. You are busted.
That is correct. The numbers that he has been pushing out for the COVID deaths, turns out that those official numbers turn out to be incredibly wrong, and he's been pushing them out. This is something that I've been saying here on Patriot Point on the channel for more than 6 months now, that he is reporting X amount of people died. And while they died of things other than COVID. People who died in car wrecks, he's counting it as a COVID death. We have an example of this from the video that I did on June the 4th. I hope you'll go back and watch that. It's called Creative Counting. And in his daily press conference, he says there was a 9-month-old baby who died and they're counting it with the COVID deaths. Well, the press asked him about this, and he said in his press conference, the baby actually died because of SIDS, but it tested positive for the virus, so they're counting it as a virus death. Now, the baby didn't die of the virus, the baby died of SIDS. So on the next day, the press asked him, and again, we have the recording for you to watch in that video. And they said, hey, can we get a separate list where we have a list of people who died because of the virus and a separate list of people who died just having the virus, but they actually died because of something else? And Andy Beshear said, no, I will not provide you that. And the press just let it go. Well, the CDC, who up until this past week Andy Beshear loved, he's had a little falling out with them, because this past week, on August the 26th, Wednesday, they came out, the CDC, and said, all right, we're going to separate the list for you of people who died because of the virus and people who died of other reasons, but they had the virus when they died. And do you know what they did? They reduced the number of American deaths of COVID-19 by 94%. This is huge, massive news. And we'll put up several links for you where you can find this, all kinds of news sources reporting this, but it's sure not being emphasized on a lot of the mainstream. Even President Trump was talking about it. 94% of all of the COVID deaths have suddenly just vanished. And they're listing, hey, these people, well, they died of a heart attack, or they died in a train wreck, or they died of cancer or leukemia, and they didn't actually die because of COVID-19. Which just backs up what I've been saying now for 6 months. Yes, it is a real virus. It does kill some people, but it's not nearly as deadly as we have been led to believe. And now the official CDC numbers confirm that. Only 6% of the people who they reported died of it, they say actually did die of it. 94% died of other causes. Now, if we take that and apply that to Kentucky's numbers, according to the press conference that the governor gave on this past Friday, there was a total of 918 Kentuckians who have COVID deaths. Well, if we apply this whole 94% of them actually died because of something else, that means it would be a grand total through this entire virus of 55 Kentuckians who have died of it. Now, we had our first case, I think, in early March. So that's March, April, May, June, July, August. We're now 6 months in, and that means, in reality, we've had 55 Kentuckians who've passed away, sadly, from this virus. Well, that's 6 months worth. Let's double that. That means there'll be, for another 6 months, 55 twice over is 110. Does 110 deaths from one particular sickness constitute an emergency? I'll just answer the question, no, it doesn't. I looked it up. Do you know how many Kentuckians die on an average every single year from the regular flu and pneumonia? I have the link for that on the CDC website for Kentucky in the description. And the answer is 932. That is the average Kentuckians who die every year from the regular flu and pneumonia. And when we add up the numbers for Kentucky deaths for a 12-month period, we've been at it 6 months, we have 55 deaths. In 6 more months, it'd be another 55. That'd only be 110. The regular flu and pneumonia kills more than 900. This is not an emergency, and Andy Beshear has now been busted by the CDC because he's been saying, oh, I'm just going to combine them all. Well, they've broke it down. 94% of these deaths are something else. And I've seen reports like this from all kinds of people now for months saying, listen, my uncle died of a heart attack, but it's being listed as a COVID death. We had a guy in our church, he had two guys, Amish guys, help work on his farm to build something, and then one day they didn't show up for work. Turns out they died in a car crash that night. Some truck or something hit their buggy, and it was listed as COVID deaths. And turns out 94% of them that have been listed, the CDC now officially says they actually died of something else. Tell you somewhere else where Andy Beshear has fallen out of love with the CDC, though he used to think they were great. This past week, they also said, if you are not sick and you don't feel sick, then don't go get a test for COVID. Now, this makes perfect sense. You don't get a test for the flu every year if you don't feel sick, do you? So why are you getting one for the COVID virus? And the CDC finally came out and said, that makes no sense. Don't do this. And Andy Beshear says, well, all of a sudden the CDC doesn't know what they're talking about. He's loved them for 6 months, but that love affair is over. So I hope this has been encouraging to you to realize that the numbers are far less than what we have been told. And now we have the official numbers that really contradict what Andy Beshear has been saying. I hope you'll check out the links in the description, and make sure you check out the channel on the previous videos that we've done, not only for that creative counting video on June the 4th, but we've covered a whole lot of other topics, and I think they'll be a blessing for you. Well, until the next video, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point. Stand strong and breathe free.